Well, Novak Djokovic has been detained in Australia ahead of a court hearing that will determine whether the tennis star can stay in the country. The Serbian faces deportation after his visa was cancelled for a second time, with the government labelling the 34-year-old a threat to the public because he's unvaccinated against coronavirus. Djokovic is still scheduled to play in the Australian Open in Melbourne. That's on Monday, and two of Australia's top players have been giving their thoughts on the situation.
When you're coming in, as well as every other tennis player, that if you wanted to come into the country, you had to be double vaccinated. So, it was up to him, his choices, his judgment, and, here we are.
Look, I think it's all been a little bit messy, and I mean, that's probably an understatement, but look, I think it's a really unfortunate situation that it's come to at this point in time, and hopefully over the weekend a decision can be made finally, whether you agree or don't agree, he stays, he goes, whatever the case. I think it's just got to be decided.
Well, will it be decided? Let's cross to Melbourne and also to Belgrade with our correspondents Shaima Khalil and Guy Deloney. Great to have both of you with us. Let me start with you, Shaima. So things continue to develop over the past few hours. Bring our viewers up to date.
Well, we now know that Novak Djokovic is back in immigration detention. This is the hotel where he was brought when his visa was revoked the first time, and we understand he is back here earlier. He was at his lawyer's office after being interviewed by the immigration officials, and there was a procedural online hearing today, essentially planning out what happens on Sunday morning. We also have learned in the past hour or so that it's going to be a full bench of 3 judges in that hearing tomorrow, when both sides are going to present their arguments. Essentially, Novak Djokovic's team are going to argue against the basis of the Immigration Minister Alex Hawke's decision, which is, in his view, the fact that an unvaccinated athlete is here could provoke anti-vaccination sentiment. The lawyers say that this is invalid, irrational, and by deporting him, he could actually provoke the thing that he is trying to prevent. And if our viewers feel like they've seen and heard this before, it's true, because once again, Novak Djokovic faces deportation. Once again, it's down to a court to decide his fate. The difference is in the time frame. It is extremely tight. We are talking about less than 2 days now before the Australian Open, and we don't know whether or not still if he gets to play and compete and fight for his title, or he gets to leave the country and be deported.
So do we think then, Shaima, that this time tomorrow, for example, will we have a final answer?
Well, the fact that it's a full bench of 3 judges makes it harder to appeal. It makes it, it is easier, if you will, to think that there will be a final answer. It doesn't mean that it's impossible to appeal. It just makes the process a bit longer. So we're hoping, I think that both sides are hoping that there could be a final answer. But again, it's just really not sure, or we're not sure where it could go either way.
Shaima Khalil, thank you so much, speaking to us from Melbourne outside that immigration hotel. Right, let us turn over to Belgrade to Guy Deloney, my colleague, who has been also following the situation, but I think it's quite different where you are, Guy. Talk us through what the feeling is like and the sentiment about this story in Serbia.
In a word, Nuala, outrage. That's where we're at here in Serbia. And we're hearing outrage both on a sporting front and on a diplomatic front. So on the sporting front, a nice little pithy quote from the Serbian Tennis Federation, who said that preventing Novak Djokovic from playing was unacceptable for the entire sports world on the planet and contradicts the sacred Olympic principles, which are well known. I must admit, I've forgotten which the sacred Olympic principles are to which they're referring, but I'll take their word for it. But there's also been a lot of political reaction now. The leaders of Serbia's their political leaders, the government, have been quite quiet in the days running up to the ministerial intervention. I think they were hoping that by standing back they wouldn't do Novak Djokovic's case any harm. Now, though, they come out all guns blazing, with President Alexander Vučić blazing in particular, asking, why do you mistreat him? Why do you harass him, as well as his family and a nation that is free and proud? So this is now being very much cast here in Serbia as an attack not just on one man, but the entire Serbian people.
And of course, we don't know whether he's going to get to play. It's from one court to another, maybe. A bad pun in there. But I'm wondering kind of, how he might play if he does get to play, come Monday after this whole controversy. And I suppose every Serbian will be kind of glued for the next 24 hours to see, does he actually make it to that court?
Well, I think there's a lot of interest. Certainly the media have been covering it in great detail here, as you'd imagine. And when there are proceedings in Australia, if it's possible to live stream them, they've been live streaming them even on national TV, not just on the websites. And we've also had, the live pages. That's been absolutely full of information about what's going on many, many thousands of kilometres away. But the thing that everybody says to me, whether it's Novak Djokovic's mum, Diana, or his former coach, Bogdan Obradovic, they say Novak is a beast and he will feed on this. So if he does play, expect him to be stronger than ever.
Guy Deloney, thanks so much. Great to have you on with us from Belgrade. It is such a story, isn't it, with so many twists and turns.